Hey everybody, this is D Hunter, bringing another action figure review. Today, we're going to be looking at the McFarlane DC Multiverse Azrael in his Batman armor. This is from the miniseries Batman the Curse of the White Knight. I believe this miniseries is sort of an Elseworlds tale. It doesn't take place in the main DC canon. Been really looking forward to this figure. The Azrael they made from White Knight is amazing, and this figure looks to be every bit as good. In the comics, Azrael has donned bat armor in the series Nightfall when he was first introduced and replaced Batman when he had his back broken. This is very reminiscent of that. I got my figure from GameStop.com. As I understand it, people have been finding these at Target for a few weeks now, and I think Walmart's starting to get them as well. Amazon does not have theirs yet, but they're scheduled to be released before the end of October, so everything is going to drop real soon. So let's go ahead and check out the packaging here. As you can see at the top, 22 moving parts. McFarlane Toys got the Spawn logo. Ages 12 plus. DC Multiverse Azrael in his Batman armor. And here he is, looking great. This is a very heavy package. Seems like the figure has a lot of weight and substance to him. It comes with a sword. And then it looks like a collector's card and display stand in the background. One side, Azrael in his Batman armor from Batman Curse of the White Knight. Other side, Azrael in his Batman armor. At the bottom, there is a barcode, in case that helps anybody, as well as a bunch of credits. And then in the back, here he is attacking Batman. And then there's a bunch of other McFarlane Multiverse figures you should track down. So with no further ado, let's open them up. And I did end up getting two of these figures, one of which to open and enjoy, and the other one to keep in my complete unopened 6 and 7 inch Batman and related action figure collection. Here he is, taking his rightful place with my other Batman and related unopened figures in front of my Batman and related comics. You can see all the other multiverse figures, Batman and related, next to him. Alright, now that we got this figure out of the package, here he is with all of his accessories laid out. He comes with a collector's card, a display stand, and his only true accessory for himself is the sword. I believe the sword is called the Sword of Sin. Now before we look at his accessories, let's take a look at the actual figure. Now this is Azrael in his Batman armor, very reminiscent of what he wore in Nightfall, except it's all in black. I don't believe he ever actually donned this particular Batman armor in the main DC canon. But this thing is sick. Just look at it. It's sleek, it's black, it's bulky. It is excellent. Loving everything I'm seeing so far. Looks like he's got a helmet on. Looking nice. The red eyes. Got the Batman logo there. Spikes, shoulder pads, and they're able to move around. They're not going to obstruct you. That is great. Reminds me of the Hellbat armor. His gauntlets, he's got his claws, they remind me of Nightfall. That looks so good. Double ball joints in his torso. I couldn't even tell if this was going to be one solid piece. The sculpt is not broken up at all. Nice job there. This guy looks like he's going to move a lot. All this stuff on him, very reminiscent of Azbats from Nightfall. But he's in his black version and it just looks so cool. This guy is a home run, as I expected. Look at this guy. He's great. And now let's check out his accessories. And let's start off with the boring stuff. Here's his display stand. Black circle, got the DC logo at the bottom, got one peg for the peg holding their feet. It's very basic, very thin, and I'm not much of a stand guy. I would rather my figures stand up by themselves without these stands underneath them. So this thing's probably never going to be seen again. And now let's take a look at his collector's card. This is a recreation of the cover of Batman the Curse of the White Knight, Book 8, which I so happen to have down here. You can see Azrael attacking Batman on top of the Wayne tombstone. Now let's take a look at his sword. Like I said before, I believe this is called the Sword of Sin. Sculpting is pretty nice on the handle. As we go further up, it does have an upside down crucifix, or it could be normal depending on how you hold the sword. The detail is excellent. Azrael from the Order of St. Dumas always had a religious tone to him. The blade looks pretty good as well, and it's going to be the exact same thing on the other side. Here's this Azrael sword next to the sword that came with the red suited Azrael from Curse of the White Knight. They are identical, and I'll say they're very accurate to the comic. Now the only difference is the first Azrael sword came with this amazing fire attachment, and you could put it over the sword. It looks phenomenal. Cannot give this thing enough kudos. And of course, if you wanted to, you could very easily put it onto this Azrael sword. Here he is holding his sword, ready to go. Here he is swinging the sword with the fiery attachment from the previous Azrael attached. Now we've taken a pretty good look at both the figure and his accessories. Now let's check out the height of this guy. And keep in mind, this is Jean-Paul Valley, not Bruce Wayne, and he's in a big armored batsuit, so he's going to be pretty big. From bottom to the top of his head, he's sitting at about 7.4 inches, which is going to translate to a little bit under 19 centimeters. And then if you look at the top of the ears, about 7.6 inches. Next, let's check out his articulation. Starting with his head here, of course, it can rotate from side to side, but that's about as far as you're going to go in either direction. The armor obstructs that, and he can look up and down that much. Not too bad. Then look at his shoulder pads. They're on little ball joints. They can go up and down. They can rotate around, so no matter how you put the arm, the shoulder pads can match. That's pretty cool. So his arms here, shoulders, a little bit disappointed. The butterfly joint is just crazy loose for me. So first of all, they can go out about 90 degrees, no problem. His shoulders and his butterfly joint are just very, very loose. I'm not really liking that. You can kind of see just goes in and out so easily. They go up, down, around, all that good stuff. It does have a butterfly joint here, which allows him to go forward and back, and he can do quite a bit with his shoulder. I just don't like how loose it is. It doesn't ruin the figure, because his arms pretty much do everything I want to do. It's just the fact that I just wish it was a little bit tighter in there. So he's got a bicep cut below that. Single jointed elbows, and I definitely expected that with him. McFarlane has stated that he doesn't like to break up the sculpt of these bigger armored figures, so they're usually going to get single joints on the elbows. His wrist can rotate around. There's a little ball in there, and it's hinged as well. If you wanted to change the way it's hinged, you can sort of hold the ball in place, rotate the hand, and then the hinge will be a little bit different. He's got two ball joints in his torso. He can rotate around. He can also go forward and back. Then he's got another ball joint down here. He can also go forward and back, giving him a very large range of motion in his torso there. Legs can go out about this far. They're not on ball joints, but it's a very similar type concept. Forward about that far. Back about that much. They can swivel about this much. Double jointed knees go back that far. Feet here, similar to the wrist, there's a ball in there. You go forward, back, can rotate around. Toe articulation, cannot tilt or rock, but if you wanted to move the ball around and then rotate the foot, you could get it to sort of tilt and rock some. But it's quite a pain in the ass to get those to do everything they possibly can do. Here's Azrael taking on Batman in a very similar style to the cover of Batman, The Curse of the White Knight, number 8. Here he is in a church-like setting. These are some other figures from Assassin's Creed that I use for the Order of Saint Dumas, the religious order that Jean-Paul Valley and Azrael are from. Here he is, getting his sword blessed. Next, let's check him out compared with some other action figures. Starting off with some other McFarlane DC Multiverse figures. Here he is with the rest of this wave of figures. Now McFarlane doesn't exactly make traditional waves. New figures are sprinkled in. They're sent into stores with old figures as well. And honestly, I think it's pretty cool. They're finding out the figures that sell well, and they're making more of them. That's pretty good, because you know how it is when you jump into the middle of a line and it's really hard to track down the early figures. At least McFarlane's going to give people a fighting chance. Here he is, next to Azrael from a couple waves ago, from the same miniseries, The Curse of the White Knight. But this is Azrael in his Order of Saint Dumas religious attire. This is very similar to the costume he was introduced in back in Sword of Azrael back in the 90s, and it's kind of similar to the costume he uses in the Rebirth. I will say, I personally think this red-suited Azrael is the best DC McFarlane Multiverse figure out there. He is exquisite, and this armored Azrael is really up there as well. Here he is with the entire White Knight collection. We do know we're going to be getting a red-tinted White Knight Batman, and it's a Target exclusive coming out early next year. I would love it if they continue to sprinkle characters from this comic. Here he is with my entire GTO. That's the Gotham Terrorist Oppression Unit from the comic The White Knight. I use the Jack Napier figure and army build an entire GTO. In my action figure world, this is a special detachment of the GCPD that deals with intense situations. And here he is in the Batman and Hellbat armor figure. This is a huge, armored, bulky Batman, and this Azrael definitely has some similarities as far as being huge, bulky. Both these figures are excellent. And here he is with some more McFarlane armored DC figures. Here he is next to the entire McFarlane DC Multiverse collection. We've got a total of 26 figures and one vehicle, and there's a ton more stuff dropping before the year ends. I am missing the 4 Walmart Dark Knight Metal figures, and I believe some people have started finding the bronze Arkham Asylum Batman. I know we also have the Merciless Wave about to drop, a couple Arkham figures. We've got the Flashpoint Batman, and even more before the year ends. And here's a little bit more of an aerial shot of all the figures. Now let's check them out, compared with our Azrael figures and my entire Azrael collection. We've already taken a look at him next to the McFarlane Azrael, and I still can't tell you how much I love this red-suited Azrael. So let's check him out with some other Azrael figures as well. Here he is with the other Azrael and Batman armor figures that I have. These are both from Mattel DC Universe Classics, and they're both from the Nightfall and Night's End storylines. Before that, Hasbro did make a couple figures like this, but they're quite dated and quite old at this point. Here he is with all the Mattel Azrael figures that I have. Here he is next to all the different DC Direct and DC Collectibles Azrael figures that I have. All 3 of these figures are actually not Jean-Paul Valley. They're Michael Lane. He was the second Azrael after Jean-Paul Valley in the comics. DC Direct does make one other Azrael figure, and it's an armored Batman figure I forgot to mention earlier. It's from the Nightfall comic, and it's actually a really nice looking figure. I would love to track one down if the opportunity arose. And here he is, next to some DST, or Diamond Select Toys, Azrael figures. Once again, this is not Jean-Paul Valley. This is a guy named Theo Galavan from the TV show Gotham. On the left, we've got the Diamond Select release, and on the right, we've got a Theo Galavan head that I threw onto a Walter Peck body to make Theo Galavan when he was the mayor of Gotham. Here he is next to a custom-made Jean-Paul Valley in civilian attire. This was the blonde, long-haired Jean-Paul Valley during the Nightfall storyline. Here he is next to a bunch of Assassin's Creed figures that I used for members of the Order of Saint Dumas. They have hoods on, kind of match the theme of Azrael, a religious cult, and some sort of monks from the Order. Next, let's check him out, compared with some action figures from different various companies, to see how he fits in both scale and style-wise, in case you want to know which lines you can mix him with. Here he is with some of his McFarlane Toys brothers. In front of you are 5 different action figure lines, all from McFarlane Toys, all 7-inch scale. And here he is next to some DST, or Diamond Select Toys. Then, here he is with some DC Direct and DC Collectibles figures. And here he is with some NECA figures. Then, with some Mattel wrestling figures. And here he is next to some Mezco 1/12 cloth soft goods action figures. Then, next to some Mattel DC Universe Classics and Multiverse figures. And with some Mafex figures. Then, with some Hasbro Marvel Legends. And here he is next to some SH Figure Arts action figures. And finally, here he is next to some Jazzwares Fortnite figures. So overall, this figure's great. This guy's a beast. He's massive, he's heavy, he looks amazing. The sculpt is excellent, different texturing and all kind of different pouches and utility belts across his outfit. His articulation's really nice. Yeah, it'd be nice to get double jointed elbows, but I expected single jointed elbows moving into this figure. His accessory's pretty good, and I'm just very pleased with this guy overall. If I were to rate this figure, I'd give him a good 8.5 out of 10, and that's a pretty high rating in my book. I do enjoy the red suit Azrael a little bit more, but not by much. So this is D Hunter. Thank you guys for watching this video. If you liked the video, press like below. If you have anything you want to say about the video, add to the comment section. If you want to see additional action figure reviews from me, press subscribe. I do appreciate when you do that. Keep an eye out for the other McFarlane DC Multiverse reviews on Flash and Joker. They're coming soon. Once again, this is D Hunter. Thank you guys for watching this video, and I'll talk to you guys real soon.